You see these people here, they make me fucking laugh. Plus, so I dropped a video yesterday saying that you should never rent out your property to a family member or a friend. And some idiot always has to try and come in the comment section and prove me wrong. My mom's been renting from my auntie for over 20 years and never had any issues. Blood, this is one situation that is going well. What about the 1,000 situations, 1,000 scenarios right now where people are not getting their money, not getting their rent, unable to evict the tenant, and the tenant is their fucking friend or family member, blood? Who gives a shit if your auntie is paying rent and that? You don't watch TV, obviously, innit? You know how much times man watch these programs and that? Nightmare tenants, slum landlords. There was one I even watched not too long ago, or a couple of years ago. These bailiffs were making their way to a property, and obviously when they're in the van, they've got the dash camera facing them. So they're talking, innit? And they're saying, yeah, we're on our way to this this job today. We got a tenant that's not paid their rent for about 18 months or whatever. And the landlord's had enough. The landlord's giving them plenty of warnings to start paying rent, and they just, at the end of their tether with this tenant or whatever, innit? Boom. So they're giving us a little backstory as they're traveling towards the property and that. And as they get out of the van, they're like, oh, yeah, this is an interesting one. Haven't really had this too many times in terms of the relationship between the tenant and the landlord. They walk to the front door, knock the front door, and say, yeah, you know, the tenant is actually the landlord's son, you know. And I thought, fucking hell, blood. There's people right now renting their mum's property, fam, or their dad's property, not paying rent. I even see that program, Obsessive Compulsive Cleaners. That was like my favorite program to watch. I mean, I'll still be watching it if they had any new episode. I'll watch every single Ras Clark episode of that program. I'll OCD myself in it. Yeah, this mum had a 3-bed house. I assume she looked after it and that. Left the 3-bed house to her 2 sons. These boys are big boys, 25 and that. Went to go and move with the boyfriend. The sons trashed the fucking property. People don't respect people nowadays, blood. They don't respect, or you know what? People don't respect people they don't have to respect him. So my man's talking about this one situation where, oh, his mom's been renting from his auntie for 20 years, no issues and that. That's one scenario that's going well out of 1,000. Even someone in the comment section of, because obviously man posts these videos on both of my accounts and that. Someone in the comment section of my other account where I posted that exact same video where I'm talking about, obviously, don't rent to a family member or a friend and that, is saying, I'm sure that's not even allowed and that. Yeah, I would imagine there's some lenders that if you told them, oh, I'm planning on renting out the property to a family member or a friend, they'll tell you no. Because they know what sort of situation this can turn into, blood. So it's just dumb. There's always some jackass that feels that they need to prove me wrong with one little dumb scenario and that. Yeah, but what about the other 1,000 scenarios that are going on right now? Even there's this place called St. Luke's House in Northampton. Man's worked there. This Somalian woman was bought a property on the top floor, rented out the property to a family member, a friend and that. The guy stopped paying rent after 3 months, changed the locks on the door, tell her to fuck off through the door and that. This is what happens. People take the fucking piss, blood. I know. Listen, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a video, because I already made a video about this, why I only rent rooms and I don't rent out the whole entire property and that. And I mean, spoiler alert now, but basically the reason why I only rent rooms is because if you rent out a room to someone that's just renting a room, whether they stay for 2 or 3 years, it's not really the point, but they're in the mind frame of, okay, this is not permanent living, yeah? I'm only trying to stay here for, I don't know, 4 or 5 months and that. And I might turn out to be 2 years or whatever, innit? But I'm not trying to be here for 2-3 years. I'm not trying to be here for the foreseeable future. I'm just trying to be here for a little bit and then I get myself back on my feet and get my own place and that. So when someone rents a room, they're in the mind frame of one day I'm going to be leaving, backed up with the fact that it's not their own place. Remember, there's always going to be a stranger coming in and out of their yard. Remember, you can't, if you leave your towel in the bedroom and that, and you're in the bathtub and that, well, you can't just run through the yard butt naked and them things, idiot. So you're always going to be around a stranger. You never fully have privacy and that. Whereas opposed to, if you rent out your entire property to a family, this is why I'll never rent out my entire property to a family. When you rent out your entire property to a family, they will build their life around this property. So they might get along with their neighbours and that. the local shops are close. The local schools and that are close. It's a decent commutable distance from their work. That's why they rented that property. They didn't rent a property in the middle of nowhere, because in the middle of nowhere, well, the schools are going to be far, the shops are going to be far, work is going to be far. They rented that property because it's convenient for them. They rented that property because the schools are close by, work's close by, the shops and amenities are close by, their neighborhood is quite decent and that. So in order to get them out, yeah, you're going to be in a big problem and that. Remember, they've put it into their head. They've come accustomed to living here. This is my house. This is why, as a landlord, I would never take on a property that is already tenanted and keep the same tenants on. Because they're going to feel like they have more rights than me. They're going to be like, yeah, on paper, this is your yard, but I've lived there for 10 years. I know more about this property than you. I know what floorboards creak from what don't creak. I know that when I flush that toilet, 10 minutes later, I'm getting water hammer, some loud horning sound. It's weird. I don't even know why that happens, isn't it? Someone who in the comment section is a plumber, explain why you get water hammer and that. They know more about the yard than you. They know what's good from what's not good in the house. So naturally, they're going to feel like, they got more rights than the landlord. And when it comes to kicking them out, you're going to have problems. Trust me, I meet these fucking prats on these jobs, blood. And I met certain people and they're like, the reason why I'm living in the council house now is because that cunt of a landlord decided to increase the rent. And I decided not to pay it, you know. Not, he increased the rent, so I just continued to give him the same amount. No, the landlord increased the rent from 400 to 500, and they didn't just continue to pay 400 and explain to him, look, I can't afford it anymore. They just stopped paying altogether. They had to get bailiffs to kick the fucking person out. I even had a tenant say to me, the reason why I'm living in the council house is because the landlord wanted to sell the property and I didn't want to move. So they had to get the bailiffs to kick the fucking person out, blood. What kind? This is the entitlement of these people, you know. And whether the landlord wanted to sell the property, whether the landlord up the rent or whatever, you got to go, blood. Even if the landlord just wanted to evict you because he wanted to move back into the property or he wanted to move his friend into the property and that, these tenants feel more entitled, and these tenants feel entitled, blood. They feel like, nah, this is my house. You can only, people who live in a shared accommodation, they will never have that entitlement because they will always know, like, even if they do only plan to stay for 4 or 5 months and it turns into 2-3 years and that, they're thinking one day I'm going to get my own space. If you give a family a 3-bed house, that's it. They're there for the foreseeable future. People are not ambitious. Those people that are renting that property are not thinking, yeah, man, get my own detached property and that. And you get me? They don't think like that. Most people are mediocre and that. So if they get a nice little decent house in a decent area, amenities are close and that, they're just thinking, yeah, this is me for the foreseeable future. And that mindset there is going to give you problems when it comes to evict these fucking people. So I don't want to hear no nonsense about, my mom's been renting for 20 years. I don't give a shit, blood. That's one scenario that's going well. What about the other 1,000 scenarios that are not going well, man? Anyway, man, that's it for today, man. Stay